I don't know whether I should plug this in or not. I wonder, I have about 50%.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6:30. We are going to get started. We'll give a few minutes to allow everybody to get onto the page and onto the program today, but I wanted to welcome you all here. My name is Jocelyn Starenchak. I'm the Director of Economic Development for CanDo, and joining me today is Business Development Specialist Mark Minig, as well as partners from the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber of Commerce. I believe we have Matt and Lindsay on the call to answer questions as well. So a little background as to why we're here today. Mark will get into more detail, but we are here to discuss the Luzerne County COVID-19 Hospitality Industry Recovery Program. That is a mouthful, so we call it CHIRP for short. We hope that you all will use that acronym as well. And we are excited to share information regarding CHIRP with you and how you can apply in Luzerne County and what those qualification pieces are. The presentation is going to be relatively short, possibly about 20 minutes, but we are absolutely encouraging questions, Q&As. You can ask questions in the chat and we will go from there. I recognize that we have, looks like we also have a partner, Dorothy Lane from the from the SBDC at Wilkes University. Thank you for being here, Dorothy. Anybody else from your team here? Thank you. A little housekeeping before we get started. So I will have control of everybody's microphone, but I do ask that you keep yourself muted at all times. If for whatever reason you become unmuted, I will automatically mute you, unless for whatever reason we have opened it up for Q&A. You can drop your questions into the chat function. The chat is located either at the top or the bottom of your page. It's a little icon that looks like a message board, and it does say chat. You can have your camera on or off, it doesn't matter, as long as everything is cohesive and copacetic on the other end of that camera, everything is fine. And otherwise, I will remove you from the chat, or excuse me, from the program. So with that being said, I think that I covered all housekeeping. Please try to keep yourself muted at all times. Otherwise, like I said, I will mute you and or turn your camera off. We're still filling in a little bit today. We had about 50 registered. We're sitting around 31, which isn't uncommon. So I think, Mark, if you are ready to get started, I'm ready to turn this over to you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to jump on with us to learn a little bit more about the CHIRP program. Also want to just say thank you to all our chamber partners, as well as the Wilkes University SBDC for all their assistance throughout this process. We're excited about this opportunity to serve all of you and to help get you guys through this very challenging time. So like Jocelyn mentioned, the goal is to just get the information across that is very important, and really to hear from you guys if you guys have any questions or concerns that we could potentially, help resolve. So, Jocelyn, we want to. So the purpose of the program, so as a lot of you might be aware, on Friday, February 15th, or 5th, sorry, 2021, Governor Wolf signed into law the legislation that set aside $145 million in funds to aid the hospitality industry businesses adversely affected by COVID-19. Next slide, Joss. So a little bit is with respect to the application, eligible applicants. So what you see on the screen, these are what we call non-negotiables. You have to meet all of these requirements in order to be eligible for this program. So per Act 1, 2021, the following eligible applicant must meet the following criteria. You have to be a for-profit entity that is not publicly traded. You had to have gross receipts during the first, second, third, and fourth quarter of calendar year 2020 that demonstrates at least a 25% reduction in the applicant's gross receipts during the same quarters in calendar year 2019. You had to have been in operation as of February 15th, 2020. You have to operate a place of business within this Commonwealth having an NAICS designation within the accommodation subsector of 721 or the food service and drinking place subsector 722. You can't have more than 300 full-time equivalent employees, and your maximum tangible net worth cannot be more than $15 million. Next slide, Josh. The grant awards. A grant award to an eligible applicant may not exceed $50,000. The minimum grant for an eligible applicant is $5,000. Assuming eligible applicants meet those basic requirements that we just talked about on the previous slide, priority then will be given to applicants who meet the following three criteria. The eligible applicant has not already received a loan or grant from the federal government or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They can demonstrate a 50% reduction in their gross revenues in the last 3 quarters of 2020 compared to those same quarters in 2019. And the eligible applicant was subject to closure as a result of the COVID-19 emergency disaster declaration and any extension thereof. Eligible operating expenses. Grants are awarded to eligible applicants for the purpose of alleviating revenue losses by paying for eligible operating expenses. The operating expense must have been incurred between March 1st, 2020 to June 15th, 2021, or prior to submission of the application, whichever occurs first. In the bill itself, it leaves a very broad term for eligible operating expenses. Per the bill, an operating expense, including a payroll and non-payroll expense that is both ordinary and necessary, is eligible. An ordinary expense is one that is common and accepted in an eligible applicant's industry. A necessary expense is one that is helpful and appropriate for an eligible applicant's trade or business. For the purpose of determining an eligible operating expense, the following limitations shall apply. And essentially what this slide is saying is that your mortgage obligations, your rent, your utility costs all have to have been enforced prior to February 15th, 2020. One final thing in regards to the eligibility with use of funds, the grant funds may not be awarded to pay for the same eligible operating expenses for which an eligible applicant receives or received payment, reimbursement, or loan forgiveness from the following sources: the CARES Act, Consolidated Appropriation Act of 2021, money that is not required to be paid back by the federal government, and B, the Act of May 29th, 2020, also known as the COVID-19 Emergency Supplement to the General Appropriations Act of 2019. With respect to timeline on the grant applications, so March 15th, 2021, CANDO in the Greater Wyoming Valley, we will begin receiving applications. They will be accepted for 3-week periods. So from March 15th at 12 a.m. till April 5th at 5 p.m., you will be able to apply for this program, and applications should be submitted electronically at the link below at www.luzernehospitalitygrants.org. And Jocelyn, if you could just open up that the website real quickly, I want to let everybody know where they should go in order to figure out everything that they're going to need for their application.
Yeah, give me just a minute to pull that up. My apologies. Okay. There we go. You should be seeing that.
Awesome. Can you go to requirements tab, please?
Sorry, I have to shift all my screens around.
It's okay.
There you go.
So the easiest way to get through this application is if you read this section of the website very carefully. You will find all the required documents that you will need to fill out, required business information that will be needed, as well as ownership information. So Jocelyn, if you just scroll down real quickly to documents needed for your application, these are documents that you must have and which you should start preparing right now if you already haven't. Your quarterly internal profit and loss statements for 2019 and 2020 will be required. And the reason for that is because we need to justify a 25% reduction in any quarter of 2020 compared to those same quarters of 2019. You will be required to upload your 2019 federal tax returns, as well as your 2020 12-month company prepared internal financial statements or 2020 tax returns, whichever is available. You will be required to also fill out a W-9 form for the business, as well as any owner with 20% or more ownership in the business. And we also provide the link for the W-9 form that you will have to fill out. Essentially, it's just the first page. You fill out the basic business address, EIN number, city, state, all that stuff. And then you would just sign that bottom first page, and that's it. You don't really have to worry about pages 2 through, I think, 6 on the tab there. Just focus on page 1.
And Mark, if I can add, for anybody that has the capability, this is a fillable PDF right here on the browser. So you shouldn't have to download it, print it, scan it, or any of those fun things. You should just be able to type right in. And once you type in, and you do have all of your information in, you want to make sure to click this arrow up in the top that says download. It looks like an arrow pointing down with a bar underneath it to save that file, because you will have to upload it later. Back to you.
No, thank you. That's very good. If you click on the next tab, as far as information needed for the business itself. Oh, yeah, I'll get to the certification form.
Sure.
So here is all the legal information we're going to need for the business, bare bones basics. We're trying to keep this application as quick as possible and as simple without really getting too far into the weeds. So your, legal name, the address, your start date of your business is a very important thing we will need. Basic contact information on the business, your EIN and your NIAC code and your number of full-time employees. And then with respect to the business owner information, pretty much the same as for the business itself, but just for the individual owners. One thing I want to make note is anybody who has 2,000, or sorry, I'm looking at the questionnaires coming. Anybody who has a owner, more than one owner with 20% or more ownership, they will also have to contribute their information to the same application as well. And when you go through the portal, there will be sections for the business owner for multiple owners to fill in that information.
One thing that I wanted to touch on as far as the website is concerned. So this website is where you will come to find all of the information that's needed. So if you look at the homepage here, obviously you see the requirements that we talked about. You also have an apply now button. You will apply for this grant application specifically through this portal. You'll click apply now. As it says now, it does say the application open and close date. But when after March 15th, when you click on apply now, it'll bring you automatically to your application. When you are applying, I understand that there might be some information that you don't have, or you have to come back to it, or we all have lives and we're running businesses, and we're trying to do our best. So if you have to step away from the application for whatever reason and come back to it at a later time, there will be a save option at the bottom of the page. That is going to save the application that you are working on to the device that you are filling it out on. So if you are on your cell phone, if you are on a laptop, if you are on any type of device, it's that specific device that you'll have to come back on to finish the application. If you go on to any other device, you will have to start over. Oh, I'm so sorry. Additionally, there is an FAQ on this website. My dog, it's dinner time, so she is barking. Apologize about that. There's an FAQ on this section that is going to answer almost every question that you could possibly think of, but we will go over them as well. So you can reference these as you need. And then we will also talk about ways to communicate directly with staff members to ask questions. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. Okay. And now, if we're good, my goodness, if we're good, I'm going to start opening it up for questions. I'm going to go through some of the chat questions. Hang on just a minute. One of the ones that we're getting quite often is just some confirmation on two major points. Deandra. If I received PPP dollars, can I still apply? The answer, Mark, is yes, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it is noted as a priority item. So if you did not receive any funding, you will receive a priority score. But if you did receive funding, you're still eligible. You just don't receive that priority funding or that priority scoring, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Additionally, we have some questions about new businesses, particularly one that opened in December of 2019. Are they disqualified from applying, or are they eligible? Can you talk about the
sorry.
timeline of opening?
I'm sorry, you broke up there a second.
Businesses that opened in 2019 or early 2020. Can you go over the timelines of if they're eligible or not?
Yeah, so to keep it as simple as possible, if you were in business as of February 15th, 2020, you are eligible. So if you started business January 15th, January 15th, 2020, you are eligible. If you started February 13th, 2020, you are eligible. And if you started February 16th, 2020, you are not eligible. So the magic number is February 15th, 2020.
Wonderful. Okay. Let's look at some other questions. If we received PA CARES grants in 2020, are we eligible to apply? I believe that we covered that. The answer is yes. Any funding that you have received, you are eligible to apply. You just will not receive priority scoring. And it is imperative that you do answer these questions honestly and self-certify correctly. We do need you to say whether or not you have received funding, as this grant is specifically trying to help businesses that, that are really hurting. I know we all are right now, but ones that haven't had the opportunity to receive PPP or any of the other programs for a multitude of reasons. How is the amount of each grant calculated?
So that's a good question. So ultimately, our goal is to assist all eligible applicants. That is our goal. We have a couple plans in mind that we have worked internally. Ultimately, it's going to come down to how many applications we receive and really try to make it fit for everyone. We've looked at a couple factors. However, like Jocelyn mentioned, we're going to rank applications based on those 3 priorities, and then using a formula based on either gross revenue sales loss, decrease, or actual dollar amounts is yet to be determined. Ultimately, we want to just remain flexible to make sure we can help as many eligible businesses as possible. We don't want to tell you this is what we're going to do and then have to change after we know what's going on. So more to come on that. Ultimately, we're just going to have to wait and see where the applications fall.
And we do want to remain as transparent as possible through this process. So we will keep you posted on that.
Yeah, and once awarding is announced, we will definitely release how we did everything as far as criteria and such as well. But we just don't think right now it'd be smart to say that this is what we're going to do and then have to change course later on in the process. We want to remain as flexible as possible throughout the process.
Absolutely. Let's see. Do you need a W-9 for individual owners of sub-S corporations?
Yes. If it's an owner with 20% or more, they will need to fill out a W-9 form. Rule of thumb, it's always safer to give more than to give less.
That's a good point, actually, to talk about the application. It is made in our Q&A and in some of our other documentation, but applications must be complete at time of submission. You will not be able to go back and modify your application, nor will you be able to reach out to a member of staff to include documentation that was missed. If we receive an application that does not have documentation or uploads, we will not accept anything after the point of application submission. Is the number of full-time employees for 2019 or 2020?
2020. What your current employee number total is today?
Just to clarify, Mark, would that be 2020 or 2021? Because we're now in 20.
Oh, well, sorry. So yeah, 2020 numbers for 20. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so your current employee count. Okay, if a business received a grant from, oh, I think we answered this, Joseph, but if you have questions, just put it in the chat still. But if a business received a grant from PA CARES, does that make them ineligible? No, you're not ineligible. You just won't receive 1 point of priority scoring. And there are 3 points to priority scoring. Let's see. Okay, from Tony. For profit and loss statements, does it need to be 8 individual files or can it be 1 file with 8 quarterlies?
So how it's broken out, Tony, is there will be a section where you upload your profit and loss for 2019. You can make that one PDF document with the 4 quarters in that one document. You can also upload it as 4 separate documents under that title as well. Whatever is easier. I would encourage you to do it in one upload. So take all your quarterlies, which is 4 of them for the 2019 section, upload it as one, same thing for 2020, and then for your tax returns as well. Does that make sense? Did I answer that?
This is a good segue. We have Dorothy Lane from the Wilkes University SBDC on the call today. Dorothy and her team are available to offer some services to anyone on this call or in Luzerne County that might be struggling with putting together some of this information. So Dorothy, I don't know if you want to just take a couple minutes and explain how your agency can help.
Sure. For those of you who don't know about the Small Business Development Center, our offices are available to any small business in a 5-county area for this meeting tonight, specifically Luzerne County. All of our services are at no cost and completely confidential. And specific to this program, we've put together a very easy to use profit and loss statement because we found through all of the disaster funding that we've helped people with that sometimes, the record keeping isn't, where it needs to be for some of these applications. So we have a very easy profit and loss statement for your 2019 and 2020 figures. You can easily plug those in, and right on the profit and loss statement, we have it so that it will pop up to show which quarters you have your potential losses in as well. So you can compare, first quarter of 19 to the first quarter of 20. And then certainly as you go through all of this, we have our consultants who are available to talk with you and work you through it. And if I can, Jocelyn, can I share my screen just for a second so I can put up some contact information, or is that?
Let's just wait till the end.
Okay.
But yeah, we will absolutely circulate that information as far as contact information.
Yes. So we are at the ready. Anything you guys need, we're happy to help you with the application and help walk you through it. That's all I have, Mark.
Thank you.
Let's see, another question. It says you broke up with the FTEs 2020 or 2021. I believe we confirmed 2021, your current employee level.
Correct.
Okay. Do you need, I'm sorry, guys. Mark, can you look at the question and answers and answer that last one from Bob towards the bottom, 651? Or any question?
If our business is currently closed but plans on reopening when the restrictions are lifted and we currently have 0 employees, do we put 0? Yes. So truth be told, the magic, like I said, with the start date, as long as you were before February 15th, 2020, it's the same thing with full-time employees. If you have 0, you don't have more than 300, thus you're eligible.
Okay. Do we need all 4 quarters or only a quarter where the revenue is decreased by 20%, 25% or more?
All 4 quarters.
The calculations you cite on the website states that you will use total employee hours divided by 2,080, which is 52 weeks at 40 hours per week. I don't believe that's a question, Bob, but if you want, I can unmute you if you want to clarify that. Just type in yes to the chat.
That formula is directly from Act 1, 2021. That is not our formula. That is directly from the bill.
That is a good point as well. Let's see. Is there anything else that we need to talk about as far as the application process? Honestly, we tried to make it as seamless as possible. We want you to be able to do everything in a couple steps. and do it all online and in one place. If you have the capability to electronically sign device or sign paperwork because you have Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader, you'll be able to do everything online without printing anything out and scanning it. If for whatever reason you don't have the ability to do that, there are some free apps. I'll drop them into the chat with your phone. You can download the app, you can take a picture of a document, it scans it as a PDF, and you can email it to yourself and upload it. So I'll make sure to put that in there as well.
Jocelyn, Bob raised a good point based on the formula. It is 2020, not 2021. My apologies.
Mark, this is Matt. A further clarification, you look at the past 12 months. So if you applied, let's say you applied April 1st, it'd be the preceding 12 months. So it'd be April 1st, 2020 to April 21st, 2021 for calculating the number of full-time equivalent employees.
Thank you, Matt. And everybody, that was Matt, the CFO for the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber of Commerce, who is a partner of ours with facilitating this grant. So thank you, Matt, for weighing in there. Matt, before I go back to the Q&As, do you have anything else you wanted to add while I have you on the call?
I'm following along. If there's any other questions, I can be happy to ask.
Okay.
To answer Bob's question, you don't have to wait to 4 weeks. That was an example. You can actually apply once it opens up on the 15th.
Okay. Matt was a little broken up there, but Bob, you do not have to wait until 4/1. You can apply as early as 3/15, and the applications will be open until April 5th. So you have 3 full weeks to fill out the application. I have a question from Brian. So you have to take a 25% loss for all quarters. What if we were down 20% for one of the 4 quarters?
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Jocelyn.
Brian is asking if you have to take a 25% loss for all quarters. If not, what if you only take a 20% loss for one of the 4?
To meet the 25% reduction, you just got to have a 25% reduction in just one of the 4 quarters. So if you had a 25% reduction in quarter 1 2020 compared to 2019, but you did all right the rest of the year and you didn't hit that 25% threshold, you would still be eligible.
And the reason we ask for the 4 quarters of uploads of that financial information is there is an additional qualifier for preference on scoring that if you have a, what is it, Mark, 50% reduction?
Yes, 50% reduction in the last 3 quarters of 2020 compared to the same 3 quarters in 2019.
Right. So so that's why we asked for all 4 of them, but you do only have to show a 25% reduction in 1 quarter. Great question, Brian. Bob, I am seeing that you might not have the correct amount of FTEs. Feel free to reach out to Mark or Matt directly after this call. Mark and Matt, if you guys can put your contact information into the chat, I'm sure they'd be happy to make sure that the calculation is correct and everything is on board. We want to make sure if you do qualify that we can get you to the application. We had another question on, there were 2 of them and I was waiting for this, but I think we'll come back to it now. Can you touch again on the eligible expenses? What can people spend this money on if they receive the grant dollars? Yeah,
so the bill did a good job of keeping it very general. It could be for like things like working capital expenses, like inventory, supplies, paying your rent, your utility bills, your mortgage, things of that. Anything that's basically essential to your business operation is eligible, essentially.
Just payroll, remember,
Allie, yes, payroll would be eligible. Yes.
Just remember that you cannot use this money for funds or for the same thing that you used funds previously for. So if you did receive PPP, go ahead, Mark.
So Joseph, to answer your question, no, you are not going to have to provide us proof with the application. In the self-certification section, you will certify that you will not be using these grant dollars to pay for expenses that have already been paid for with other grant or loan from the government.
That's where I was going. Thanks, Mark. Katie asked, since we're a startup company and do not have 4 quarters in 2019, would we just leave that section of the application blank?
Yes, yeah. But you have to make sure
Uh,
you're in business as of February 15th, 2020, but correct, yeah.
So Katie, in your particular situation, because you opened in December, as long as you had revenue in December of 2019, you do need to put something for the time that you were open, even though it was only 1 month of a quarter. So don't just start at 2020, start from the moment you started earning money in 2019. Let's see. How soon will businesses receive grant dollars after receiving a notification that they were awarded the grant dollars?
So that's a really good question. The bill requires us to have the money out by June 15th, 2021. Now, I am going to tell everybody here on the phone, we are not going to wait till June 15th, 2021 to get the money out. How this is going to work is once the application portal opens on March 15th, Can Do and the Greater Wyoming Valley staff, we are going to start reviewing applications ASAP to get them reviewed as quick as possible. Once we have our applications reviewed and we know who is going to receive funding, we are then going to have to go to Luzerne County to request the funds be dispersed to both Can Do and the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber. At that point, we will then be communicating electronically with all awardees that they need to electronically sign a grant agreement. At that point, we cannot disperse the funds until we receive an executed grant agreement from the grantees. So ultimately, once you get notification from us, if you're selected for funding, to fill out that grant agreement ASAP and get it back to us.
Dorothy asked a good question. This program is not first come, first serve. We will receive applications for 3 weeks. We will review applications and score based on priority. And then we will determine grant amounts based on the amount of applications that are received. And again, I want to reiterate that we want to do our best to fund every eligible business. It might not be at the full 50,000 amount, but if you are eligible, we will do what we can to get every eligible business funding. Okay, that is all of the questions in the chat right now. We're just about a half hour on the call. So if anybody, oh, there we go. If anybody else has a question, and we got one. Katie asked, can you go over the 3 priorities once again? Actually, Mark, if you want to answer Joseph's question above that, I'll pull up the slide that has the priority items on it.
If I have multiple corporations under the same common ownership, just different EINs, I assume I can, yes, because you have a separate EIN for a separate business, you can apply for each of those businesses.
Okay, Mark, if you want to touch on the priority items again, they're up on the screen.
Yeah. So the 3 priorities, did you have a 50% reduction in the last 3 quarters of 2020 compared to 2019? You did not receive a grant or a loan from the federal government or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and you were subject to closure as a result of the COVID-19 emergency disaster declaration. Those are the 3 priorities, and those are not our priorities. Those are written directly into Act 1 of 2021.
Right. So these are priorities that were put in by the state when they put together the program. Good questions, guys. Keep them coming. While you guys are thinking of your last minute questions, I'll go ahead and give you guys some information. So Luzerne County is a large county. We all know this. We have a large population density and we have a large service area that we take care of. So along with the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber and the SBDC and Can Do, we are working with the Downtown Hazleton Alliance for Progress, the Back Mountain Chamber, Pittston Chamber, and the Greater Hazleton Chamber of Commerce to all kind of work as arms and extensions of us to answer questions. If they don't have an answer, they will reach out to program administrators like Mark, myself, or representatives from the Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber, but they will be answering questions. So feel free to reach out to your local Chamber of Commerce or your local Main Street district, as well as Dorothy's organization, the SBDC, to ask questions. On our website, you will also see a button for general questions. If you'd like to ask a question via email, feel free to click that button and send us an email. We will be monitoring that throughout the day. We are hoping to come up with some other creative solutions for how we can get you access to information. Michelle, I didn't realize that you were on the call, so I apologize. Michelle McKiddich from Pittston just put her contact information down in the chat. If there's any other chambers that are on the call or any of our other partners, please put your contact information in the chat. We will be adding your information to our website as well, so that members of the community have access to who to reach out to. You don't have to reach out directly to somebody who covers your service area. You could reach out to any of us, but we always encourage you have a relationship with your chamber. This is what they're there for. They're there to help you guys and help you understand, what resources are available in the community. So feel free to reach out to your local chamber or other resources with additional questions. We did not talk about it on this call, but everything that we are doing will be done in Spanish as well. If you know any business owners that are primarily Spanish speaking or bilingual and feel better answering questions or asking questions in their native language, we are holding a session tomorrow at the same time, 6:30 at night. It'll be done in Spanish. It'll be presented by Fermin Diaz of the Downtown Hazleton Alliance for Progress, as well as a representative from the Small Business Development Center, Jackie. So they will be on the call in Spanish, answering questions and doing this presentation as well. Our application will be in Spanish, as well as all supplemental information will be available on the website in Spanish for anybody that needs it. So please be sure to spread the word if you have any neighbors or partners that perhaps don't speak English or have limited language abilities in English, that they are eligible to apply for this as well. And we encourage them to ask questions.
I know his name's not Mariachi, but that's the only way I can remember.
Oh boy. Okay, question. How to apply for this grant? And for medical offices, can we apply for any of these grants? This grant is specifically for hospitality-based industries. Mark, do you want to touch on the NIAC codes again?
Yeah, so written directly into the legislation is you have to have an NAICS code in the accommodation sector of 721 or the food and drink subsector 722. There's a resource on the website that could help you locate that NIAC code on your tax returns. The NIAC basically stands for the North American Industries. I forget, Matt, you can fill me in here. It's a code that just it categorizes you based on the IRS for taxing purposes. That's it. And so there we put a reference sheet up there for you, so that depending on your profit and loss statement on the business you are, where you can locate that NIAC code.
And if you have not filed taxes yet, I would imagine that this is a question you could go to your accountant with.
Or Jocelyn, if I can interrupt, the SBDC, we can help them look it up too. We have that.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Hold on, I got this wrong twice. It's the North American Industry Classification System. Say that 5 times. I apologize.
Okay. Let's see if we have any other questions in the chat. Doesn't look like it. I think we're okay. Any of our partner chambers or downtown districts, anybody else want to add anything? Feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself at this time. But thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Please spread the word. We had about 50 registrants for today. There are over 700 industries in Luzerne County that qualify for this grant. So please spread the word. Please let your neighbors know, and stay posted on Facebook, stay posted, sign up for our email list. You can do that on our website to get all of that information regularly as well. We want to make sure that the information gets to all of those that need it. And that is all I have. Thank you very much, guys. We hope to see your application soon and hope to be reaching out to you with information regarding approval or not. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.